Hey everyone, this is Martin from howtomakemobilegames.com on February, or is it March? I think it's March the 1st, 2018 today. It's Thursday and I'm driving to work in sort of the middle of Manchester on a snowy Thursday morning. It's pretty nice to have some snow in Manchester every now and then. This video, I wanted to talk about the business of immigration into the UK. I don't know much about the business myself in terms of like how solicitors make money or how much money overall is made in terms of getting application fees in, but this is just my experience based on me and my wife moving back to England, and it's not exactly like a how-to business thing or maybe an inspirational thing. It's just talking about the numbers that I had to spend, really. I wanted to share that with you guys. I think somebody had asked a while ago, so I thought I'd do a video on it while I'm driving. So I think it was late 2016, we decided to start the process of moving to England, because the whole idea to be here was, one, so that I could buy my own place, because I just can't buy one in China. There's a 35% deposit, and I don't think I could own... Oh, I'll turn the fans down for you guys so that it's not too loud. I don't think I could own one myself as a foreigner, and then it would never be going through me. It would always have to be going through my wife or her family, and I would never have any control. And that's not a problem. Not to say, obviously, my wife and family, I love them and I trust them, of course, but I just feel like if I'm gonna buy a place and put all my money into it, then it has to go under my name through me. Or I'd just feel very strange, and I wouldn't feel like I had any control if it was through a Chinese estate agent and solicitor, and then the ownership was in Chinese and so on. And the second reason was possibly to eventually have a baby as well. And the other reason is that my wife wanted to get out of China for a while, since she's lived there her entire life and hasn't lived overseas. But obviously getting to England is very tough for a foreigner that is outside of the EU. To give you the numbers straight up, guys, it cost me a total of about £8,000 to get us all to England. Now I say us all, I mean me, my wife and my dog Louis, the little Chihuahua. £8,000, which is a ton of money. That included a solicitor fee, an application fee, flights, Louis' transfer through like Hong Kong and getting him over and all that stuff. So £8,000, and on top of that, I had to hold in my bank account for 6 months £63,000. That's just insane, isn't it? £63,000. It is big business. Now, when I say 63,000, I basically had to put my money and my family's money together under my account for 6 months and then give it back to them, and that was okay. That's okay to do that, but it was a ton of money just to hold, or just to get hold of, you know, and hold in the account for that amount of time. But then on top of that, of course, there was 8,000 fees. So how did that kind of break down? If I remember the numbers roughly, it was about 2,300 for the solicitor fee, which I think might have been a little more expensive than a normal immigration solicitor, say in Manchester, because we hired them in London. But they were Chinese, so they could speak to my wife in Chinese, and they could explain exactly what was needed in terms of the documentation in China that was needed, where to go to do the application process in China, and all of this. So that was a big plus. That was a big plus. If anybody does want the recommendation of that solicitor, then drop me a message or an email or something in YouTube, and I can let you know. But I highly recommend them. They did a ton of work. So there was like that was like £2,300. Then £1,200 for the application itself. I think, yeah, about 1,195, 1,200, whatever. For the application, that was just the paperwork to actually go to the immigration place in Guangzhou, which is in South China, to hand in the application, and them to check it and do the interview, or sometimes they don't do an interview. But that was around 1,200. Then £500 for her healthcare while she's in England for 2.5 years. That's for half of the time. In 5 years, she can apply for a full residency permit, and that 500 goes towards the first 2.5 years of healthcare, basically NHS. So there was that as well. What else was there? So 2,200, 1,200, another 500 for that. Getting Louis over to England with an agent as well. We seriously needed an agent for help getting Louis to England, because all the injections and paperwork and getting him into the sort of the pet transport centre in the I think it might have been Cathay Pacific who we flew with. I can't remember, but all of that was a lot of stuff, and getting all of the things that we needed in China and going to the pet shop for injections, it was huge. I couldn't have done it, and my wife couldn't have done it on her own either. We just wouldn't know what to do, really. There's so many things to do. And then they told us all about, once we're in England, we need to pick him up, and need to get him chipped, and all of these things that we need to do. So that was, total was £1,700. That's the flight and the agent fee as well. Also, guys, if you are interested in that, in transporting a dog to China or Hong Kong, they're based in Hong Kong, that agent. So any Chinese viewers, if you are interested, you can drop me a message. I can recommend them. They did a great job. So that was 1,700. There was also my wife's English test that she had to pay for. I can't remember exactly how much that was, but it was an IELTS test. And she, completely nailed it. Her English is perfectly fine. I think it was like the B level or something. There's like 2 levels. There's a basic level and then there's a higher level. The higher level actually seemed pretty hard. When I was reading the questions, even I was stuck on some of the words. I'd never heard these words before. So we said just go for the basic one, because basic is, can you get by and live and talk it? Of course you can, 100%, there's no problem. So she did that. Then there was also getting some injections done as well. I don't think it was hepatitis or anything like that, but getting some injections to show that you've been immunised, and that costs some money as well. Other fees, what was there as well? Obviously things like our flights, of course, that was costly as well, because we had to fly on the same plane as Louis, which was, oh wow, I think I spent, damn, what was it now? It wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap, I'm sure. God, was it like £2,000 or something? It was close to it, because usually what I'd do is I'd use a site like skyscanner.com, and you can get all the cheap deals. So long as you're flexible on time, you can find very cheap deals to most places in the world. Like when we flew to Thailand, I got a that was through skyscanner.com. Extremely, like, a great package deal, real cheap. But this one, because we had to get on a specific flight that Louis was on as well, I had to pay for that flight, and that was, yeah, I think it might have been around, the most might have been around £1,500. I can't remember the exact number, but the total that it came to in the end was about £8,000. It was just insane, and really, it was a long process as well. The application process, we obviously having to keep the money, having the money available for 6 months. That was one. Also, the application process, things like having an invitation letter from my family and where we were staying. With my family at the moment, they had to have a sufficient size house. Also, obviously, getting the invitation letters. All of the documentation needed to be filled out. All of the history of our relationship, our conversations, our like WeChat, our like instant messaging chats, pictures from our holidays, a personal message from me, because she got rejected a long time ago because of some issues with a UK visiting visa application, and that was a big problem. And so we didn't. That's why we went with a solicitor this time. You can do this on your own, but the amount of paperwork was just huge. All of the history had to be carefully laid out. And so the solicitor at first, I didn't know what they were going to do. It wasn't clear. They said, oh, we'll handle some paperwork. I didn't know. I thought, well, they'll just receive our papers and then, I don't know, they'll check it quickly in half an hour and then they'll send it back to us, and that was it. That's all I thought it was. I wasn't sure. But it was a huge amount that they did. They were very thorough on what to say. They gave me feedback on my personal message, like, don't say this, you have to say that, you have to mention these points. Feedback on the history as well of the how can you say it, like the chronology of our relationship, like the pictures, like you should add this one, do you have pictures from here? Even on the passport as well, they gave feedback on there's a gap in the dates here, where were you on that date, and so we had to like sort of dig into my passport and her passport at the same time to say, hey, we went to Macau together, and match up those dates exactly so that there was no gap. So they were very, very thorough. There was a lot of feedback. They even made like English changes as well to my personal letter and gave that back to me, and then I had to sign it. And then after all of that, filling in all of the application, of course, getting all the necessary documents, they sent us a huge pack, which was like an inch thick, of all of this printed documentation. And then they told us, well, once we've received that, then you need all of these other documents, like you need your passport and all this, because obviously we didn't send our the documents in China, we didn't send them to England. They sent us all of the necessary packs, documentation application form to China, and then we just combined that with the documents that we have in China, and then went to the application center in Guangzhou. So, and they talked us all through that. So it was a really big process. That's 6 months of holding it, and then after the 6 months of holding that money, then that's when we started the application process. And then obviously we had to do things like the English test for Mickey, and being able to get her booked in for an immunization, which didn't take long, but she had to practice for her English test as well to be sure. So there was a ton of stuff. It was a really long process, and all of that time, I could have lost my money in that situation. I would have lost my solicitor's fee. If the application was, so that would be 2,200. If the application was rejected, I would have lost another 1,200. So what's that, 3,400? Am I right? Yeah, 3,400. And then obviously the English test as well, and then just the amount of time, you know, that we spent on it. So 3,400 could have potentially been lost. So it was a bit of a stressful time, just worrying whether it was going to be successful or not. But it is big business. God, the immigration into the UK for foreigners outside of the EU is very big business. Like I say, I don't know if anybody could make a business out of it. It's possible that referrals to solicitors could work if you're in a specific country. The solicitors, I'm fairly sure they do accept like agents as on commission basis. But I mean, for the fees that I was paying, 2,200 for a solicitor, if you refer one person a month, you could probably make a fairly decent commission from that. But I just wanted to share that story anyway, guys, because somebody had asked about it, and it's not something that I think I've talked about very much on videos before, and I thought it was an interesting thing to talk about anyway. So, but more coming soon, guys. Hopefully tomorrow it will be a bit more business topicy and something more specific to how to make money and how to make passive income, and just give you an update as well on my passive income and how it's going on things like with mining coins, and obviously the mobile games as well. Releasing more games onto Oculus now. We've just got a new game that we've finished, and we're going through the submission process to the Oculus VR store. So we'll see how that goes. That's an Oculus Touch game as well. So it's hopefully going to get a bit of a better ranking because it's a touch-based game as opposed to just a gamepad or gaze control game. And what else is there? So doing that now, and then working on our next PC game as well. So when I see actually a new PC game, because we've not done PC games before, so PC and Mac based game, which is a top-down futuristic Wipeout style game. So if you played that before, it's the sort of future hovercraft ship that flies around the track at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And we've got a pretty good engine set up for that, a pretty fun gameplay system set up, some nice physics, the race feels right, the main mechanics are all in there. That's going to take a while to build though, so that's another business thought altogether, because I don't want to go down the line of building this game for a year or a year and a half and then nothing happens. You know, I think I do want to take the time in this game, because we can't do the quick flip, you know, of games now where we build something in like, you know, a month and then pump it out, and it's just not going to happen. It ain't going to happen. We need to put a lot of time into it, and I'm willing to do that so long as we've got a clear direction on where it's going, and it feels fun as well. It feels fun. So, but it's a game that I really enjoy playing at the moment. We're only thinking about single player currently, because multiplayer is extremely hard to test if you're not sat in the same office together, because you have to organize the right time. If you're, like in our case, the developer that's working for me is just on his own, it's very difficult for him to work and test multiplayer on his own. Like, how do you do it? You need somebody to test multiplayer with you whilst you're developing, or it's very time consuming and very difficult. So we might be going with single player and just making a very large campaign and then releasing multiplayer later. I don't know if that's going to work out in terms of, say, publishers being interested, or the platforms like PlayStation being interested. I don't know. So we'll have to figure that out. But I just don't want to get a year down the line and then figure out, oh, well, nobody's interested and it's not going to make any money, because that would really suck. That would suck. But more coming up on that, guys, when I've got more details to share. So I'm going to go now, because I'm pretty much at work, and I will catch up with you all soon. Wherever you are, have a great week. Chat to you later. Bye.